I would be very, very cautious. Do your due diligence, find out your exit strategy, always know exactly how you can get out before ever signing to the dotted line, and never be put into a situation where you have to make a decision on the day. Okay, so on today's episode, I'm going to talk about some financial bullets that we've avoided. I like to call that. I think they're just financial traps that I think everyone should avoid if they can. Overdrafts. So when I was at uni, we had a thing called a student account. I don't know if they still do it now, but when you would get a student account, and I don't know why they did this, I really don't think it's a very good idea, but they used to give you, well, at least for me, I had like a £1,200 interest-free overdraft. So this meant that if I had zero in my account, I could spend up to £1,200 and not have to pay any interest on it. And I did. Like, I used to live in my in my overdraft. I am ashamed to admit. I used to live in my overdraft and then all of a sudden look at it and panic and like try and like pay it back and stuff. And on one of those times I actually went into the bank and sometimes when you have long queues in the bank, every now and again they will have a bank helper or advisor who just sort of walks around and asks you, what are you in the bank for today? Can I help you? And sometimes they take you aside and then just let you, do your transactions to kind of reduce the queue or whatever. So on one of the days, I went in to kind of look at my, I don't know what I was in for, to be honest, but it was before everything was all online and you actually had to go into banks to do your banking. And I went in, I'm not that old. I mean, I'm sure there was online, but it wasn't on your phone and stuff. So I went in and one of these guys came up to me, what are you in to bank for? And I said, oh, I want to look at X, Y, and Z, blah-de-da. Right. And he said, okay, well, I'll take you aside. And so he took me into his they have like little cubicle thing and started looking through my accounts. And he said, oh, I notice you're in your overdraft quite often. I said, yeah, but, it's interest fee and, it's an option that they give us, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. What's wrong with that? And he actually gave me some unsolicited advice, which, it depends how you feel about unsolicited advice, but I was actually really grateful for it. He said to me, why don't you apply for a credit card? He said, it does your financials much more damage to go into your overdraft than it would be to actually spend on a credit card, because spending on your overdraft shows that you don't plan your finances well. You end up in a place where you're short of money and you have to go into unplanned. He said even if it's an arranged overdraft, from a financial perspective, it's not seen in as good a light as a credit card, because in a credit card, you are applying for something where you intentionally plan to spend money that isn't your own with an intent to pay it back, whereas an overdraft is on an account that you should be having money and you should be in the positive, but you're going into the negative. And he encouraged me. I didn't, take it on board immediately, but over the years it's something that has probably been a fantastic lesson. I mean, since my uni days, I've not ever been in my overdraft. And I have to say that was fantastic unsolicited advice, probably some of the best unsolicited advice I've ever gotten. So I encourage you, if you're someone who finds yourself constantly in your overdraft, try and use your credit card instead. Don't go into your overdraft. Always allow your balance to be 0 plus. Don't let it go into the minus, because financially that doesn't necessarily come across as well as using a credit card and making your minimum payments. I know it kind of goes against the point that I just last said, but it's, making minimum payment on a credit card is much better than being stuck in your overdraft. So if you have to choose between the two, credit card is definitely a much better way to go. But you should always make sure you are making your minimum payments, and even better, paying more than that, and even better than that, paying it off in full. Okay, so the next point I wanted to talk about, which is one thing that we avoided, was a thing called interest-only mortgages. So when you buy a house, you can either get a mortgage that's a repayment mortgage, which means that as you pay off your payments every month, by the end of your term, if it's 15, 20, 25, 30-year term, you've paid off your house in full. But there is also a thing called an interest-only mortgage, which means that during the term of paying off your mortgage, you just pay the interest, but at the end of it, you still owe the full amount of the value of the house. Now, you might ask yourself, well, why would anyone do an interest-only mortgage? Well, the thing is, interest only means that your payments are much less because you're not paying off the value of the house. What your payment might be, £900 for a repayment mortgage, but on an interest only mortgage, you might only be paying £400 a month. Now, to someone who's just trying to get on the ladder, that might seem like quite an attractive aspect because you'll think, well, actually, on a monthly basis, I can afford that and I can deal with that problem later. I can sell the house, get the value, repay it. And I think that's a very, very dangerous route to go. There are many, many people who found themselves coming up to the end of their interest only term and they are stuck. They're having to either sell their houses for much less than they're worth just to make the payment. And I really encourage you, if you are considering getting a mortgage to buy a house, if you can't afford the normal repayment, I would definitely not encourage you to go the interest only route. Most banks these days won't even allow you to do it, particularly for a residential mortgage. Now, I know some people do it for when they are investing in property, and I think that's slightly different. And often they've considered the ups and downs of that. When I talk about interest-only mortgages in this instance, I'm particularly speaking about residential. You are going to live in that house. Do not go for an interest only, go for a repayment. And if you can't afford the payments, maybe look at buying a house that is worth slightly less value, or looking at living in an area on a house bracket that you can afford, because you will be doing yourself a favor and you will be doing your future self and your current self a massive favor. So yeah, that's point number 4. Hey guys, it's Vimbai again. So that's the end of part 1. As I mentioned at the start of this video, I decided later to actually split this video in 2 parts just to make it more digestible. So part 2 is going to deal with point number 5, which is about holiday schemes and some of the traps that you could potentially get with those. And point number 6 is going to be the bonus point, which is about people who are interested in starting out and investing in property and some of the traps that come along with some of the training that's out there. Okay, so I hope you found that video useful. If there was anything in there that you found helpful or kind of helped forewarn you about things you didn't know about, please, feel free to click the like button. And also, if you're someone who's kind of faced some of these things, avoided some of these traps, I'd love to hear in the comments below, what some of those things were, and if there are any, especially if they're not any that I've mentioned, I'm certainly always trying to kind of inform myself, and I think it's just helpful for other people as well. I feel like to be forewarned is to be forearmed, and I think we should all sort of be each other's, keeper in a way, and you don't know what you don't know often, and often we sign up to these things without realizing the long-term implications that we are actually getting into. And if you're someone who's actually in the situation right now, do share in the comments below, and hopefully, you never know, there might be someone out there who could actually give you, who has been through a similar thing and has a way that they actually got out of it. And certainly, if it's something that I've been through, I'll do my best to kind of respond as well. So yeah, let's look out for each other. Let's keep each other informed about these things. And I shall see you in part 2.